The air on Helios Prime tasted of ash and ozone. Commander Vex'ahlia moved through the battlefield wreckage with practiced silence, her tall, lithe form navigating the twisted metal and charred earth with a predator's grace. Her iridescent skin, normally a vibrant blue, was dulled with dust and fatigue. The planetary winds whipped her crest of sensitive tendrils back from her face as she scanned the horizon. This had been the final battle, the one that ended the 15-year war between humans and Nevidians. Neither side could claim victory, only mutual exhaustion. Vex'ahlia wasn't here on official orders. Her mission was personal. Her bioscanner chirped softly, detecting faint life signs ahead. She'd been tracking this particular signal for 3 days across the ruined battlefield, afraid to hope yet unable to stop. The reading was unmistakably human, but humans weren't rare. What made this one special was the unique radiation signature, one she'd encoded herself, years ago, into Lieutenant Ethan Blackwood's tactical vest. The same Lieutenant Blackwood she'd watched disappear under a collapsing building during the ambush of Tari 6 years earlier. The same human who had pushed her from the path of a plasma mortar, saving her life at the apparent cost of his own. She approached a half-buried transport ship, its hull cracked open like an egg. The scanner's signal grew stronger. Vex'ahlia's four-fingered hand tightened around her pulse rifle, her secondary eyelids flickering nervously across her violet eyes. Impossible, she whispered to herself in her native tongue, the word emerging as a melodic trill. Inside the wreckage, emergency lights cast red shadows. The life sign led her deeper, to where a human male lay partially pinned beneath a collapsed bulkhead. His face was turned away, but the set of his shoulders, the dark hair now streaked with gray, Vex'ahlia's breath caught. She knelt beside him, setting down her weapon to gently turn his face toward her. Time seemed to stop. The years fell away. It was him. Older, scarred, a jagged line running from temple to jaw that hadn't been there before, but unmistakably Ethan Blackwood. The human who had been more than a comrade to her, though neither had ever found the courage to define what that more might be. Ethan, she said, her translator converting her natural clicks and trills into human speech. Her hands trembled as she worked to free him from the debris. His eyes fluttered open, the same deep brown she remembered, focusing slowly on her face. Recognition dawned, followed by disbelief. "Vex," he whispered hoarsely. "Am I dead?" "You survived," she whispered back, her voice breaking. She pulled him free and gathered him against her, one arm supporting his back, the other cradling his head. Her tendrils curled forward instinctively, brushing his face in the intimate greeting of her people. "All these years. I searched the ruins for days. There was nothing left." Ethan's hand weakly rose to touch her face. "They pulled me out. Kept me, prisoner. Escaped when the battle started." Vex'ahlia's scanner beeped an alert, multiple life forms approaching, moving with purpose. Her tactical display identified them immediately, harvesters. Mercenaries who collected valuable prisoners and intelligence for the highest bidder. With the war officially over, information was the new currency. "Can you walk?" she asked urgently. "With help." His eyes held hers. "You came back for me." "I never left," Vex'ahlia said, helping him to his feet. She steadied him with an arm around his waist, feeling the human warmth she thought she'd never experience again. "And this time, I'm not losing you again." The scanner beeped more insistently. The harvesters were closing in. "We need to move," she said, retrieving her rifle one-handed while supporting Ethan with the other. "My ship is hidden 2 kilometers east." As they moved toward the exit, Ethan stumbled. Vex'ahlia caught him, their faces suddenly close. In his eyes, she saw everything they'd never said, everything they'd both believed lost forever. "Vex," he whispered. "If we don't make it." "We will," she cut him off, her tendrils gently curling around his wrist in a protective gesture. "I have a promise to keep." The crimson suns of Helios Prime were setting as Vex'ahlia half-carried Ethan through the ruined landscape. Her enhanced hearing caught the distant whine of the harvesters' hover engines growing closer. "They're gaining," she murmured, adjusting her grip on Ethan. His face was pale with exhaustion, but determination hardened his features. "Leave me if you have to," he said, wincing as his injured leg dragged through debris. Vex'ahlia's tendrils flared in irritation. 6 years apart hasn't improved your sense of humor, human." A faint smile crossed Ethan's face. "Not humor. Practicality." Then you've forgotten who you're dealing with. Vex'ahlia paused behind a collapsed communications tower. The most decorated tactician in the Nevidian fleet doesn't abandon her assets. Is that what I am? An asset? His eyes searched hers with an intensity that made her secondary eyelids flutter nervously. Before she could answer, plasma fire erupted around them. 3 harvesters in scavenged battle armor appeared on the ridgeline, weapons trained on them. Targets acquired, one shouted. The human's worth triple if he's breathing. In one fluid motion, Vex'ahlia pushed Ethan behind cover and returned fire. Her pulse rifle whined as she dropped the first harvester with precision that hadn't dulled with time. The second took cover, while the third circled to flank them. Can you shoot? She asked, passing Ethan her sidearm. He checked the weapon with practiced hands. It's been a while, but some skills stay with you. Together they held the harvesters at bay, but more signals appeared on Vex'ahlia's scanner. We can't stay here, she hissed. There. Ethan pointed to a maintenance tunnel partially concealed by fallen debris. That should lead toward the eastern quadrant. They retreated into the tunnel as covering fire from Vex'ahlia kept the harvesters pinned. The passage was narrow, forcing them to move single file through darkness lit only by Vex'ahlia's bioluminescent skin patterns, which pulsed with exertion. Your markings, Ethan said as they pushed forward. They're different. War promotions, she replied. The patterns change with rank. They're beautiful, he said simply. Vex'ahlia felt warmth spread across her skin, her markings involuntarily brightening in response to his words, a physiological reaction she couldn't control. In Nevidian culture, such a display was equivalent to blushing. We're close, she said, changing the subject. My ship is just beyond this sector. When they emerged from the tunnel, twilight had fully descended. Ethan's breathing was labored, his weight heavier against her side. Without warning, his legs buckled. Just, need a minute, he gasped. Vex'ahlia scanned him with growing concern. His life signs were weakening. What aren't you telling me, Ethan? Slowly, he pulled aside his tattered uniform jacket, revealing a crude medical patch over his ribs. The seal was failing, leaking a combination of blood and the translucent medical gel used for battlefield stabilization. Their parting gift, he said grimly. The guards weren't happy about my escape. Vex'ahlia's tendrils curled in distress. We need to move faster. With renewed urgency, she led them to a camouflaged clearing where a scout ship waited, sleek, dark, and distinctly Nevidian in design. As the entry ramp descended, Ethan stared in wonder. Command let you keep a Phantom-class ship? I didn't ask permission, she replied, helping him inside. Some bridges I burned when I started searching for you. The interior hummed to life as they entered. Vex'ahlia eased Ethan into the medical bay, her fingers lingering on his arm. Rest, she commanded, moving toward the cockpit. I'll break atmosphere and set course for the neutral territories. As she initiated launch sequences, the scanner flashed warnings. Harvester ships were converging on their position. Vex'ahlia's hands flew over the controls, the ship trembling as it lifted off. Plasma fire struck their shields as they rose through the atmosphere. The Phantom's engines screamed in protest as Vex'ahlia pushed them beyond safety protocols. The ship shuddered violently, then stabilized as they punched through into open space. In the medical bay, Ethan watched through the viewport as Helios Prime dwindled behind them, its scarred surface a testament to the war's brutal cost. Vex'ahlia appeared in the doorway, her tall frame silhouetted against the starlight. You came back for me, he said again, as if still unable to believe it. Always, she replied, her voice soft as she moved to treat his wounds. Some promises transcend even war. The abandoned research outpost on Trella's moon had been designed for both species during the pre-war scientific cooperation era. This made it perfect for their needs, and unlikely to be searched by either faction. Vex'ahlia guided the Phantom into a concealed hangar overgrown with luminescent fungi. As the engines powered down, she returned to the medical bay where Ethan lay sedated, his wounds properly treated with the ship's automated systems. 3 days had passed since their escape from Helios Prime. 3 days of hyperspace jumps, course corrections, and constant vigilance to ensure they weren't followed. 3 days of watching over Ethan, changing his dressings, monitoring his vital signs, remembering what it was like to care for someone beyond the cold dictates of duty. His eyes opened as she approached, clearer now without the haze of pain. Where are we? He asked, attempting to sit up. Careful, she admonished, adjusting the bed to support him. We're at Outpost Trella 9. Abandoned during the 3rd year of the war. Ethan nodded. I remember. Joint Xenobiology Research. It has supplies, environmental controls for both physiologies, and most importantly, it's off every remaining patrol route. She busied herself checking his bandages, trying not to notice how his gaze followed her movements. Vex, he said quietly. I never thanked you properly. No need. You saved my life at Tari's. I owed you. Is that why you came for me? Debt. Her hand stilled on his bandage. You know better. Later, as Trella's gaseous mother planet rose on the horizon, casting the outpost in amber light, they shared their first meal outside the ship. Ethan had regained enough strength to walk short distances, and Vexalia had secured the perimeter with sensor arrays salvaged from the Phantom. Command thinks I'm dead, Vexalia said, breaking the comfortable silence. After Tari's, after losing you, I changed. Became reckless. When my final mission failed, it was easier to let them believe I perished than face court-martial. Ethan's expression grew troubled. You gave up everything. Not everything, she corrected. Just the parts that stopped mattering after Tari's. His hand moved across the table to cover hers, 4 human fingers carefully interlacing with her 4 Nevidian ones. The gesture, intimate by both species standards, sent a visible ripple through her bioluminescent patterns. They'll come looking for me, he said gravely. What I learned in captivity, it's why they kept me alive. The Zenith Protocol wasn't just a rumor, Vex. It's real, and it works. A weapon that targets specific neural patterns. It could eliminate an entire species without harming the other. Vexalia's secondary eyelids closed in horror. Which species? Either. Both. Whoever controls it decides. His grip tightened. That's why both sides want me. I was part of the research team before I was assigned to your unit. I know how to neutralize it. That night, as Trella eclipsed its moon and plunged the outpost into darkness, they moved like planets drawn into each other's gravity. In the shadows of the observation dome, physiological differences became irrelevant against the gravitational pull of emotions denied for too long. Vexalia's tendrils curled gently around Ethan's neck as he drew her closer. His hand traced the luminescent patterns along her arms, making them pulse with intensity. I thought of you, he whispered. Every day of those 6 years. Your face kept me alive. Her forehead pressed against his, a Nevidian gesture of profound connection. And thoughts of you kept me searching. Their kiss bridged worlds, careful at first, then deeper as they discovered each other. Different, yes, but complementary in ways neither science nor war had ever acknowledged. Dawn found them still entwined when the proximity alarm screamed to life. On the security monitors, a bounty hunter ship descended toward the outpost. Their sanctuary had been compromised. They're jamming communications, Vexalia hissed, fingers flying over the outpost's defense console. Military-grade equipment. Not typical bounty hunter gear. Ethan pulled on the envirosuit she'd found for him, wincing as the fabric stretched over his healing wounds. Someone's backing them with resources. The outpost shuddered as the bounty hunter's ship landed on the auxiliary pad. Vexalia's tactical display showed 6 figures disembarking, 5 in standard mercenary gear, led by a taller figure in specialized armor. Dorvik, she spat, recognizing the notorious Centaurian hunter. He only takes contracts with guaranteed payouts. Which means someone's very certain of my value. Ethan checked the charge on his borrowed blaster. We can't outshoot them. Vexalia's tendrils flared with sudden inspiration. We won't have to. She pulled up the outpost schematics. The old xenobiology labs connect to maintenance tunnels that lead directly to our hangar. If we overload the atmospheric regulators in the main hub, we create a diversion, Ethan finished, already moving toward the corridor. Just like Proxima Station. You remember. She couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. His eyes met hers, intense with meaning. Everything, Vex. I remember everything. They moved through the outpost's abandoned sections, Vexalia leading while Ethan guarded their rear. At the environmental control junction, Ethan's technical knowledge proved invaluable as he reprogrammed the systems. This gives us 3 minutes before the alarms trigger, he warned. The bounty hunters breached the main doors just as Ethan and Vexalia reached the labs. Through security feeds on her wrist display, Vexalia watched Dorvik deploy his team with military precision. He's good, she admitted grudgingly. But predictable. When the atmospheric warnings blared, the hunters responded exactly as anticipated, converging on the residential section. Vexalia and Ethan slipped through the maintenance tunnels toward their ship. They were boarding the Phantom when Dorvik's voice echoed through the hangar. "Commander Vexalia," he called, emerging alone from the shadows. "The Nevidian High Command offers amnesty and reinstatement. Full honors." His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a Centaurian gesture of sincerity. "Just surrender the human." Vexalia raised her pulse rifle. "And if the offer came from human authorities?" "Triple the payment," Dorvik confirmed, mandibles clicking. "Both sides want him badly." "There's your mistake," she replied coldly. "Thinking he can be bought or sold." The ensuing firefight was brief but intense. Dorvik's specialized armor deflected most of Vexalia's shots, but Ethan's knowledge of Centaurian physiology helped target vulnerable joints. Together, they forced the bounty hunter back long enough to launch the Phantom, though not before Dorvik's plasma charge scorched the hull. In deep space, as Vexalia assessed the damage, Ethan's expression darkened. "We can't keep running," he said. "They tracked us to Trella 9 through my biomarker. The prison implant, it's still active." "Then we remove it," she stated flatly. "Without proper medical facilities. The risk is less than certain capture." Her hand covered his. "Trust me." For the next 3 weeks, they played a deadly game of evasion across the neutral territories. On Karis 4, they removed Ethan's tracker using black market medical equipment. On Delios, they narrowly escaped a Nevidian Special Forces team. In the asteroid fields of Viridian, they outmaneuvered human military vessels. With each escape, with each moment of borrowed time, the bond between them deepened. In stolen hours of peace, they learned each other's bodies as thoroughly as they'd once learned each other's tactical strengths, mapping scars, discovering responses, bridging the biological divide with tenderness neither had experienced in years of war. On the 6th planet of an unnamed system, they found temporary refuge with a colony of war deserters from both species. Here, for the first time, they witnessed humans and Nevidians living in hard-won harmony. "This could be the future," Ethan said as they watched children of both species playing together. "If we can stop the Zenith Protocol from falling into the wrong hands." That night, as they prepared to leave, Vexalia received an encrypted message from an old comrade, one she'd trusted with her life during the war. "It's time to stop running," she told Ethan, showing him the coordinates. "My former second-in-command has arranged a meeting. She says she wants to help." "It could be a trap," Ethan warned. Vexalia's tendrils curled thoughtfully. "Yes. But it's also our best chance." The ancient ruins on Paradox 3 predated both human and Nevidian civilizations. Massive stone structures, eroded by millennia of elemental exposure, formed a natural labyrinth around a central amphitheater. The neutral ground had been chosen carefully, sacred to the oldest beliefs of both species. Vexalia positioned surveillance drones at strategic points as they waited. Ethan studied the alien inscriptions on the weathered pillars, his linguist's mind still fascinated despite their precarious situation. "These symbols," he mused, "they're remarkably similar to early Nevidian script." "And certain Earth hieroglyphics," Vexalia added. "Another connection our governments worked to suppress." The sound of approaching ships ended their discussion. 2 vessels descended from opposite directions, one bearing Nevidian military markings, the other displaying the insignia of the Human Alliance. "This isn't what was promised," Vexalia hissed, her pulse rifle raised. Ethan's hand on her arm was gentle but firm. "Wait. Look at the landing patterns, they're both displaying open weapon bays without powering weapons. It's the old diplomatic approach protocol." From the Nevidian ship emerged a familiar figure, Commander Thela, Vexalia's former second-in-command. From the human vessel came Admiral Westfield, the architect of several failed peace initiatives during the war's final years. "Unexpected allies," Ethan murmured. "Or united enemies," Vexalia countered. As the delegations approached, Vexalia noticed something significant. Both leaders came with minimal security, just 2 guards each. Not the formation for an ambush. "Commander Vexalia," Thela called, her tendrils displaying formal respect patterns. Lieutenant Blackwood. We come under temporary truce. Admiral Westfield nodded. What Lieutenant Blackwood possesses threatens the fragile peace. Both sides have extremist factions seeking the Zenith Protocol. Why should we trust either of you? Vex'ahlia demanded. Because, Thela replied, we've both lost too much to risk another war. What followed was not the confrontation they'd expected, but a council of necessity. In the ancient amphitheater, surrounded by ruins from a civilization that had perhaps faced similar crossroads, they shared what they knew. Ethan revealed the full capabilities of the Zenith Protocol, how it could be calibrated to target neural patterns unique to either species, or even specific genetic markers within each population. How it had been developed as a deterrent but had become too dangerous to exist. The knowledge is already out there, Admiral Westfield acknowledged grimly. Too many scientists worked on different components. We can't erase it. But we can ensure balance, Commander Thela suggested. If both sides possess the neutralizing agent Lieutenant Blackwood developed. Mutually assured protection, Ethan finished. Rather than destruction. As they debated, Vex'ahlia's scanner detected multiple ships entering the atmosphere. The extremist factions had found them. We're out of time, she announced. 3 Nevidian hunter-killers and 4 human strike vessels converging on our position. Admiral Westfield's face hardened. My ship has a quantum transmitter. If we can broadcast the neutralizing formula to all military commands simultaneously. Neither side could risk using the protocol, Thela concluded. Ingenious. What happened next became legend in the annals of the post-war era. As enemy forces surrounded the ruins, the unlikely alliance fought to protect Ethan long enough to encode and transmit the neutralizing formula. Vex'ahlia's tactical brilliance coordinated their defense, while Commander Thela and Admiral Westfield's forces formed a united front against their own kind. In the central tower, as Ethan worked feverishly to complete the transmission, Vex'ahlia stood guard at his side. If this works, he said without looking up from the console, they'll never stop hunting us. Then we'll never stop running, she replied simply. His hands paused on the controls. Together. Her tendrils curled affectionately. Was there ever any doubt? When the transmission finally launched, carrying not only the neutralizing formula but evidence of the cross-species cooperation that had made it possible, the effect was immediate. Across both fleets, weapons powered down as commanders processed the implications. In the days that followed, as peace negotiations resumed with new urgency, Vex'ahlia and Ethan were offered amnesty by both governments, and positions as diplomatic liaisons between species. They declined. The Phantom, repaired and restocked, awaited them at the edge of charted space. The unmapped stars beyond offered something neither had dared hope for during the long years of war, a future unbounded by old hatreds. As their ship accelerated toward distant horizons, Ethan stood beside Vex'ahlia at the viewport, their reflections merging against the backdrop of stars. You know, he said thoughtfully, I never answered your first question. Which was? When you found me in the wreckage, you asked if I had survived. His fingers interlaced with hers. The truth is, I only started living again in that moment. Vex'ahlia's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with emotion as she turned to him. Among her people, such a visible display was the purest form of truth, a light that couldn't lie. Then we begin, she whispered, together. The Phantom vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it the proof that some bonds transcend the boundaries of worlds and wars, and some loves are worth crossing galaxies to find.